Am I going in and out?
Yeah. I think it's the mic.
Let's see. If this doesn't work, y'all can hear me. I'll just not use it. Hello, thank you for staying. So I have a few questions for Laura, and then I want to pitch it to everyone else. I first wanted to start with some background of how we got here, because the story is like the most classic random connection story. So I was living in New York, and my roommate, Ethan, who has actually done a show in this room before, his job was to listen to a bunch of new musical submissions for NYMF, which stands for New York Musical Festival, yes. Wow. And he goes through like thousands of them. And he said, I found this one that I like that is called Emojiland. And I thought, okay, the title I wasn't sure. And then he said, no, I have all the songs, listen to this. And he played Work Together. And I was sold. And I was like, oh my gosh. And he started playing all of them with the Princess song. And I was like, this is so good. So he pitched it to the festival. It got picked. And then after the festival, it got produced for an off-Broadway run, which I went to opening for. And then later, Sid Davis, our music director, who's right there, he came to New York and he saw it, and we sat and we watched it front row. She also, not only did she write it, she originated Smize. If you listen on the soundtrack, that's her voice.
Oh, wow.
And we both were in love with this show, but we thought, we didn't know if it was right for Tapestry, but we thought one day how cool would it be if we did it. Then the pandemic happened and made their run not as long as it would have been. And then in 2023, I had a film at the Austin Film Festival, and you're all put in different groups. And I'm put in a group, and I look over, and I see her at the table. And I'm staring at her so much, trying to figure out who she is, that I'm like, I have to acknowledge this, because she sees I'm being weird. So I said, I know you, and I didn't know why, and we finally figured it out, and that she had written the show and started it, and I told her the whole story, and I said, just so you know, I have a theater in Houston, we would love to do this at some point, thinking she would be polite but not give us the rights, and she did. And then she got here to come see it. So, random connection of how this all happened and how we got here. But we're so excited to have you. And I have so many questions for you. First question, what is it like today in 2025 seeing this show after the workshops you did with USC and the recordings and then the festival and then doing it off Broadway in 2018? No, 2020. Yeah, right. What was it like now, sort of as the before and after?
Wow. Well, first of all, I just want to say that this is really magical, and being here right now in this room with everyone is so exciting and very emotionally overwhelming for me. And thank you, David, for first of all for I'm so happy that we were put together in that moment. I do believe the universe put us together in that moment, and what you did with this production was astounding. And the things that you added to it and the way that it came to life was beyond my wildest dreams. So just a round of applause. Sid and the whole team and the cast. Just another round of applause. But yeah, I mean, to make a musical it takes more than a village. It takes a universe, and this was a 6-year writing process in which we started from nothing, just an idea, a concept, and we threw a lot of things at the wall, and some things stuck, some things were like poop on the wall, and we were like, no, we gotta clean that up and start over again. And we kept literally starting again, factory resetting the show for 6 years. We wrote tons of versions, and we ultimately landed on a version off Broadway, which is closest to what we saw today. But yet it's so new today, and so it's amazing that the show can keep restarting and finding new life and new audiences, and that brings me so much joy that people can see it in new ways and things that resonated in 2020. Also, just keep in mind that we did this show off Broadway January 2020,
Wow.
and we closed March 11th, 2020. And I know that probably some of you are seeing this show today thinking that maybe we wrote it after experiencing the virus.
No, you manifested the virus.
Firewall.
I might be sorry. But yeah, so to see it in this moment now and have it take on a whole new meaning, and what's going on politically has changed so much since we did it, and seeing how it resonates in new ways now, and yeah, it's pretty wild.
Can you give sort of the specific journey so people appreciate, especially anyone who wants to write a new musical, the steps that it took to get, let's just go to even off-Broadway before the pandemic, of like, from creation, workshops, recordings, to trying to get to the festival. What was that like?
Yes. So in about 2014, we started with the idea to write a musical, and we actually got the idea because so I have a co-writer on this, Keith Harrison Dworkin, and so we were at dinner, and we were like, we knew we wanted to write a musical, we were throwing out all sorts of ideas, and then we randomly looked up to see what the most searched word on Google that day was, and it was emoji. In 2014, and we were like, why is emoji the most searched word? And it turned out that was apparently like the day that the emojis were being turned into an alphabet, a font on our phones, because before that you couldn't just send emojis in text the way that we can now. And so I don't know, and then we just looked at each other and something sparked, and we were like, wow, these are characters, literally, in our phones that we know, and what if they were alive? And what if there was a whole world that they existed in? And that was the seed of the idea. And then we started coming up with what the story should be, what the plot should be, which characters we should use. There's a lot of emojis. And we started, the first version took place on an alien island of emojis who like had yellow blood, and it was like really weird. It made no sense. And so we quickly threw that version out. And then there was a version that was like Alice in Wonderland, where a human gets sucked into her phone, and she meets all these different characters. And there was a version that was like a Romeo and Juliet story where Skull and Smize were like star-crossed lovers. Yeah, we did that version at USC as part of their development program. And there were just a lot of versions of the show, is all I'll say. And I think, one of the characters that was very new to the process, it wasn't a character that wasn't part of the story at the beginning, was Nerdface. Because Nerdface didn't exist as an emoji when we started writing this show. Because as you know, when your phone updates, you get new emojis. And so then something clicked with us about how like, oh, that's so interesting. Like when there are new people that we meet in our life, or new people that come into our country, and all of a sudden it's exciting. And what if Nerdface was this, could be this hero? So I think that was a unique part of the development of this show, is that literally characters that are important to the story, some of them didn't exist when we started writing.
And you said in the car today, as it evolves, it could become that Taco becomes a character. Like,
Yes.
it's just endless if we can run with
Yes,
this. Yeah.
totally.
My impression when I saw it in New York, the cast really was full of a lot of recognizable Broadway musical theater talent. And to me, the buzz in New York was a lot of that, of like, oh, she's in it, he's in it. There is this other side that when I see this, I want to advocate that so many high schools should be doing this show, because there's so many good parts. The message is there. It's not, some dorky, cheesy music. It's very fun, exciting music. What is your experience of people's reaction to the show in terms of kids, adults? Or the message behind it? What do you feel like people's takeaway generally is?
Well, I think things go wrong in Emojiland, just like things go wrong in our world, and people make mistakes, emojis make mistakes, and things break. And I hope that this show leaves people with a sense of hope and a sense of connection and a sense that we can start again, and we can go through things that are really hard, and we can persevere, and that at the end of the day we do all matter, and you do decide what matters. And so where you place your energy and your heart will be what ends up mattering.
Yeah, I think because of that sentiment, working on the show anyway has become, I think, my favorite song. There are other ones that, I heard Pooh and I was like, all my chips are in. But now that anyway, it really speaks to me for everything you just said. Before I open it up to any questions people have, I want, and I know a little bit about this from talking to you today, of how wild your last week has been. What are you working on now? What is your artistic passion is speaking to you the most? What do you have cooking in the oven?
So I have a new musical that is very different from Emojiland. It's called Miss Hysteria, and it takes place in 1885 Paris in an insane asylum.
Very different.
Very different. And it explores what was happening back then, where these women were basically made to perform symptoms of madness, and it basically turned into the hottest ticket in France and then the world. And it's a piece of history that I think is important for us to understand and know about. And I'm really excited about where it's going. But we actually got to do our very first presentation of it, a full reading at this theater called Good Speed Musicals in Connecticut, which I worked at 12 years ago with Kaylee back then. And it was a very special weekend to work on it.
And then she immediately went to New York and took meetings with New York theaters about that musical, and then got on a plane from New York this morning to be here and fly down tomorrow. So the hustle is real. It's very impressive. Does anyone have any questions? Yeah.
Tell us about how you started your career to get to the point of performing on Broadway. I mean, I'm imagining somebody was 5 years old was singing, and it's just that all this can go in your mind, and you can write this, but also have the talent to sing and the music, and it's just extraordinary. I mean, it really reminds me, I leaned over and said something to my friend here from Rice University. I was like, this could be on Broadway. And I didn't know anything about it. I just got invited to go see it, and I'm like, this is like Broadway. And so how did you get to that place in your life to do that? And you obviously had a lot of perseverance to carry it through as far as you have.
Well, thank you. Yeah, I was a theater nerd, always, from day one, yeah. I saw a production of The Wiz when I was 3, and apparently, the story goes, I told my mom at intermission, I want to do that. So I just knew that that was what I wanted to do. And I was known to apparently I was always singing, I was always making up songs, and I had a little Fisher-Price, tape recorder and a microphone. I'd walk around. I had my own radio show. My stuffed animals. So yeah, I think I was just always performing, and then I got sucked into the professional world of Chicago theater, where I'm from. When I was 10, they were doing a production of The Secret Garden, and it was connected to the Park District day camp, theater camp that I was at, and they picked me out of the camp and said, you should audition for this production of Secret Garden, and I got it, and then from there I just never stopped. I loved doing theater, and then I studied it in college, and then I was always writing poetry and short stories, and then I met Keith, and we started writing songs together, and then we were working on a lot of new musicals in various capacities. He was music directing, I was acting or choreographing, doing different things, and someone was like, "You guys, where's your musical? You guys should write a musical." And then we did. So we actually, both of us, Emojiland was our first musical that we had ever written. So I do feel like we learned how to write a musical in the process. And our first few drafts made no sense. So we really had to learn how, we learned about story structure, and we learned about how to craft a musical, because it's not easy, and it takes a long time for it to find you, I believe, because I do think it took time for the story to find itself. Yeah, so just never stopping, really.
Yes.
Two-part question. One, I'm curious to hear more about some of the emoji characters that didn't end up making it, and like some who are your favorites. And then two, I'm curious if this has changed your relationship with emojis. Do you sort of imagine their characters as you're typing them in your phone, or what has that done to your relationship?
Well, okay, to answer your question, yes, I definitely have some favorite emojis who unfortunately are no longer part of this script. But I also hope, like David was saying, when high schools and colleges and these places start doing this show, that all these characters can come back. Because there's that opportunity for lots of emojis in the show. But I do really miss, we used to have this, in one version, there was a council, like an Emojiland council, and there was this character, Baby Angel. And it had like an angel with like a pacifier. And they, like, kind of the whole show were like kind of ditzy, and everyone like took them for granted. And then at the end of that version of that show, they said something like really profound. And I really enjoyed Baby Angel. I miss Baby Angel. And also so the bunny ears, the like twins with bunny ears. Yeah. Yeah, they were really fun, and they were like were joined at the hip the whole time, and had like really fun synchronized choreo in like a concert version we did in LA back in the day. But yeah, so I think like my dream is for when there is a huge ensemble, that all those, like Baby Angel can be there, and the people with bunny ears, they're all there. So someday, yeah, get to see them all. They'll all be back. But yeah, I do love using emojis, and I sometimes have to be like, okay, enough. Emojis. But it's hard for me to not end a text with an emoji. Like I always want to like bookmark it with an emoji.
Same.
Sometimes an avocado.
Yes.
I'm curious how far down the rabbit hole you and your co-writer went with understanding like the Unicode Consortium and like the committees that define all of the technical bits. Because I was also very entertained that at several points throughout the show, the little technical jokes that were hidden.
Yes.
So I'm just curious more about that.
We went really deep. Really deep. We actually ended up meeting the president of Emojipedia, which exists. It exists. And all the characters in Emojiland are based, like the names of the characters are all based off of the actual like code names. And yeah, it's really fascinating. And they have a whole, there's a really great documentary that you can find, I forget what it's called, but it's about like the history of emojis. And when we actually started writing this in 2014 in order to pitch the show to producers and people, we actually made a mockumentary, like a fake documentary about the history of emojis, and then they ended up making something like that. But yeah, we really did a lot of research, and all the, like, Nerd Faces song, the Zeros and Ones song, that was, like, the idea of that was really, it was actually, that song started in a different version, where it was the Alice in Wonderland version, where the human, like the teenager, got sucked into her phone. And the show started with her doing a science project. And she was like presenting in front of the school. She was presenting a theory, basically the theory of zeros and ones, that like, what if one code, it symbolized something different? Like what if, like Nerdface says, the code for a hibiscus, what if that code actually were the code for an onion or a fart? Then, and we got pretty, like, because you can get really convoluted and start going really deep with this. But, so anyway, and everyone ends up bullying her and making fun of her for theories. and then she ends up going into her phone. Different show, but that was the seed of Nerdface's song, actually. Nerdface existed.
Yeah.
Sort of piggybacking off of that, when it comes to writing the songs, were there any like alternate versions or songs that got scrapped or anything that you like had an idea for very early on that you carried through the whole time?
Yes. We have over 50 songs written for this show that no one's ever heard. Yeah. There's a vault. There's a vault. There's there's so many songs. Person in Business Suit Levitating had a song. And it's kind of like a Michael Jackson inspired song. There's so many songs. And, you know, it's part of writing a musical. Sometimes you have to, for the good of the show, you have to say goodbye to some songs that you love. I'm dealing with it right now with my new show. You realize there's a song that we love and people love it, but it's not serving the show. So, tons of songs. And maybe someday, we'll release them into the world so people can hear them. But yeah, there are a lot of songs that I wish, somehow. Say goodbye.
Jim.
So how many different versions of this show have you seen directed? And is there anything David did directorially that was like very surprising?
Oh my god. First of all, I cannot tell you how many times I audibly was like, yes! I loved what you did with the show. Like, what you did in Start Again with everyone in the bodysuits, and that was so moving and so inventive. I loved opening Act 2 with
So the origin in that really was he's such a good singer, and I'm like, how can we get Sandy to sing? And then how do we make it funny? We'll just shut it down. Because you guys are so talented.
It was
we want
brilliant.
to do more.
The fans. Yes, the fan work. Oh my God. No, there's so many moments. I could go on and on. This is only the second time the show has been done outside of the off-Broadway production. There was one production that was licensed last year in San Jose, and they actually did the show with 8 people. Yeah. So every actor played like at least 2, maybe 3 roles. And it was amazing. They did it with different hats. They just kept going off stage and changing hats.
Yeah.
And that was wild to see. And actually, like, I didn't know how it would work, but it worked.
And you guys you were in between us and them. How many did you have in New York?
We had 16.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah. And this was 19.
We were 19, right? Yeah.
Yeah. I love the party face. That's funny. And there were so many great moments. Yeah, like really, 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 really great production. I was blown away the choreography. Wow.
Wow. We worked hard on that.
Wow. Yeah. It was amazing.
Thank you.
How long was the rehearsal in the beginning of casting to this production that we saw? How long? Was this like a year? Or?
We started January 2nd, but I was like, I'm going to push them dance-wise more than usual, so I came down in November, and it was just sort of like boot camp. We did 6 days, and I staged 9 numbers. And then I begged them, we filmed it, and I was like, please retain this on January 2nd. And I came back, just also because I'm based in New York, I can't just be here all the time, otherwise we would be able to rehearse more. And I came back January 2nd, and they were on it, and I almost started crying. I was like, thank God, I'm fine. But real rehearsal started January 2nd. Yeah, they're amazing. This one, yeah.
Just a few weeks ago.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, I know. Yeah. I am so bad at costumes that I delegate that immediately. Like in a past show, I remember I was like, that could work. They're like, that's a colonial dress. Like my time, I don't have a good eye for dressing in that way. So Tina Throckmorton, who is directing the Pajama Game, she did a lot of the costumes. Marla, who was our cop, did a lot of them. You actually have a cool story, though, I think, of how Princess got a costume. Like a
Oh, yeah. Well, so there was the actress who played Princess on Broadway, named Leslie Margarita. Brilliant. She had to miss a show, and her understudy didn't have, for some reason, the costume. It didn't. We needed a different size for the costume, and it was a last minute thing. And we had someone who was a really big fan of the show, who had seen it many times and was really into cosplay, and had created their own version of the princess costume, which was amazing, like down to every detail. Like
and like showed up to BravoCon in the
yes,
costume.
showed up to like TheaterCon. Is that what it's called? BravoCon.
Bravo, yeah.
BravoCon. Showed up in the costume, and it was like literally like zeros and ones etched into the costume, which is what our costume designer Vanessa did off Broadway, and it was amazing. And so they actually rented it from her for that understudy's performance on Broadway.
Can you imagine if you were the fan, how cool that would be to get the like costumes going on? Amazing. We'll have time for 2 more questions.
I have one.
Yeah.
The cast was so phenomenal. How did you go about finding all these wonderful people?
I agree. This is interesting because so I've been directing with this group for about 12 years. But I'll do like 1 show a year, and a lot of the people I've worked with from them. Some people have been in almost every single show. So usually I would say like 80% of the cast I've worked with before, and I love them, and we have an audition process, and it's very familiar. This one was different as our theater family has grown, a lot of people are having babies and moving on to other things in life and are not able to do every single show. And so I had more new people than ever. But I'm shameless in reaching out and texting and harassing, nicely, hopefully. But I also very recently have acted a little bit in Houston and at other wonderful theaters here. And so I would text those theaters and be like, I need someone who can dance. I need someone who can sing like this. And so I just sort of put out a bunch of feelers.
These are tapestry players that are in this show.
Sorry?
Tapestry players. This is our family.
Yes, the group is Tapestry Players, and they do about 5 shows a year. And many of them will be in, they just did a Christmas show, they just did a fall show. So a lot of it is that, but this has been exciting and bringing in new people as well. And I kind of got everyone I wanted.
They were all wonderful. You did a great job.
Thank you, I agree. They're fantastic. Maybe one more question.
Okay, I'll ask. What's your favorite song in the show?
It's hard to pick favorites. It's got to be Anyway. Yeah. I think that was one of the first songs. The first song that was ever written for the show was actually 1,000 More Words, which is a song I love also. And that was written actually in the very first version, it was for the emoji older woman who sang it after there was an earthquake in Emojiland in the first version because the phone dropped off a dresser and an older man, a tree fell on. So older woman sang 1,000 More Words, and the song really changed very little from that version, but it's a really special song. So I love that song. But Anyway was I think the second song for the show, and so I think that really was and has always stayed at the core of the story that we were trying to tell. And even though the plot and the characters and everything changed around it, I think that what that song is trying to say is what is really the most important message of the show.
What do you feel like is the most popular song?
The most popular song, probably, it might be Princess's Song. Yeah. Which I guess was a new version. So
We did soften the lyric a little bit. If you, there is a cast recording.
There's a cast recording.
Yeah.
We're in a church.
We're
Yeah.
in church, we won't say. But yes, Princess's Song I think is might be
Yeah.
a favorite. Yeah. Yeah. Zeros and ones.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Zeros and ones.
Well, speaking of that, about the album, it's I've said this to her. It's so wonderful and rare and clutch that you guys got an entire cast album recorded before the shutdown, especially because not many off-Broadway musicals get a cast recording within for 6 weeks.
Yeah.
Really, it's so special. So everyone go wear out that album. It's fantastic. It's on Spotify. You can listen to the whole thing. I would love, after we wrap up, if the cast can come up, we'll do a photo with Laura. If I can just say for a self-indulgent moment, to think in 2018, my second year in New York, I'm sitting on the couch with my roommate listening to the raw tracks of this song, and then to watch it through all of its iterations and go to opening off-Broadway and see it with Sid Davis and then direct it with him in my hometown theater with you here is so surreal and special. Thank you so much
Oh my God.
for writing such a good show and being here. And let's thank Laura one more time.